Heavyweights never die. And honest to goodness, this is one of my favorite fights on this card. We got Danger Matt Schnell taking on Tyson Nam. And Matt, Tyson Nam, it took him a while to gain a footing in the UFC. So he comes in and faces off against Sergio Pettis. Well, to me, if you watch Sergio Pettis' last fight in Bellator, he's probably going to fight the winner of Patchy Mix and Juan Archuleta. So take that for what it's worth. Sergio Pettis, world class at 25 and 35. Listen, Tyson Nam lost the decision to him. It's going to happen. He loses the decision to Kai Kara France. Then you get a little bit worried because Nam, at this point in his career, he is about a month shy away from his 37th birthday at flyweight. Typically, the wheels fall off well before 35, unless you're an anomaly like Joseph Benavidez. And then you look at Tyson Nam. So he's originally supposed to face a bit of a tougher opponent in Ryan Benoit. And I say a bit of a tougher opponent. He ends up drawing 3-1 Zaruk Adashev and knocked him out in 32 seconds. He looked amazing, and if I could say anything about Zaruk Adashev, pretty good striking, but we didn't get to see any of it in that fight. No. Tyson Nam, if you look at the totality of his career, and I think that this really will play a factor into this fight against Schnell, you look at Tyson Nam. He has so many fights. He's got 31 professional fights, split between bantamweight, flyweight, mostly. If you look at where his wins and losses come from, out of his 19 pro wins, 11 of them by knockout, 1 by submission, and if you look at the losses, he's never been submitted. If you go to his opposite here, Matt Schnell, out of his 14 wins, we're talking an overwhelming majority by submission. He's the type of guy that cross-trains at a lot of different gyms. If I give you the breakdown, 9 of those wins by submission. But Matt Schnell spent time for this camp at Fortis MMA. He's trained out of American Top Team in the past. He's trained out of that smaller hole-in-the-wall gym, if you will, in Louisiana, where he's from, with guys like Tony Kelly. You've seen Andrea Lee there as well, continuing to grow a bit of a stable there. But Matt Schnell, really diverse attack, and I think that's the thing that fighters in this weight class really have to worry about with a guy like that.
Yeah, because against Schnell, you basically have the specialist in Tyson Nam against the well-rounded mixed martial artist in Matt Schnell. Now, Schnell is a guy who will... I think he strikes too much, to be honest, because he has a similar skill set to, let's say, a Benil Dariush, where he can strike, but if he gets the fight to the ground, he's a lot better than most of the guys, especially in this division. The only issue for Matt Schnell is he strikes a little too much, if anything. In the Pantoja fight, now I understand Pantoja is very good on the ground as well, but Matt Schnell was more than happy to just stay in boxing range with him, and then eventually Pantoja's power started to get to Schnell, and he was able to talk him out. Now, I'm not going to stand here and say that Tyson Nam can hit as hard as Alexandre Pantoja, but he does have a similar striking style. He will throw a few more kicks, and I think the calf kick for Tyson Nam is going to be really important. Now, you can say, well, Matt, it's very important in every fight. Tyson Nam is one of the rare few guys who doesn't just throw the calf kick. He more specializes in it. Some of these really good Muay Thai fighters who then transition over to MMA, their calf kicks, it's something extra. When they start to really get it going, and when they damage the front of your leg, it shuts down your whole offense because you can't explode like you're normally able to. You don't have the regular footwork and movement that you can normally employ. So it's a really big detractor if your opponent has a great calf kick. Now, Matt Schnell, if he's able to catch any of those kicks, that's the great news for him. You're facing a very kick-heavy offense in Tyson Nam. So if you're able to catch any of those, take the fight to the floor, Matt Schnell is going to have a fairly significant advantage in the grappling between these two. Personally, though, I just think the striking of Tyson Nam is going to be enough to either A, keep Matt Schnell at such a range that he won't want to close distance to go for the takedown, or B, not flatline him outright, but really have the fight on the outside, really set your combinations up, and then as the fight moves on, if he can start to land with power, I think Tyson Nam, it's his fight to lose. But the problem is, the second this fight goes to the mat, Tyson Nam has to be working to get back up to his feet. Schnell's one of those unique breeds where at any moment on the floor, he can snatch up an arm, grab your neck, and he's really versatile in a lot of different submissions. So Schnell, if he can get the fight to his position, which would be top position on top of Nam, I think he'll have great success. The only issue is I don't know if he'll be able to get the fight there at any point during the fight.
The thing that makes it weird, Matt, we talked about this off air, but if you look at Matt Schnell's record, coming in off The Ultimate Fighter season 24, that was the season where Tim Elliott went on to fight Demetrius Johnson. Schnell lost by sub to Tim Elliott. That's going to happen. I know if you're a Tim Elliott fan in 2020, and well, you're probably not a fan in 2020, but you're going to really put a negative connotation to that. But back in 2016, hey, stuff like that was happening. Okay. Then he gets finished by Rob Font. All right, well, it's at 35. It's not really his weight class. Rob Font's a power puncher. Then he fights Hector Sandoval. All right, he gets finished there,
he
too.
He knocked him with, like, weird hammer fists, too, while Schnell was going for a leg lock. It was weird.
That's not that great. He comes back. Marco Beltran, Naoki Inoue. Those are good wins. But to me, I put a lot of stock in him at the time, but the wins over Luis Smolka and Jordan Espinoza. So Smolka, away from the UFC, gets a win over Sue Mudderji, and then he comes into the fight against Schnell. Schnell struck quite a bit, but he was able to get the finish in there. Now, Matt, we have this thing that we talk about in our shows where it's the Louis Smolka effect. Can you explain that really quickly?
Louis Smolka loves to just lay on his back and hope that he gets a submission eventually, but the really big problem with that whole game plan is that he just lays on his back. So if you're good enough to really keep your elbows on the inside and not get armbarred, you can just sit in Louis Smolka's guard for 15 minutes and he won't really threaten with that.
And that plays throughout every division. We just pick on Louis Smolka, and that's where we went with it. There's another Louis Smolka effect, and it's about Fight of the Nights, where he talked about it at one point in an interview, saying that I like fights that make you pucker your butthole. So we could go with that Louis Smolka effect as well. Hopefully you're not doing that at home, and yeah, it's a weird one. But Matt Schnell in the fight after that, a fight against Jordan Espinoza, you're taking on a really high-level wrestler. If you have any submission abilities whatsoever, you should be able to counteract that. He does. And then he loses the Pantoja fight. What do all of those fights have in common? The losses. We're talking good strikers. Pantoja, Sandoval, Font, and to a lesser extent, Tim Elliott. Tyson Am, a very good striker, like you said. But I do like the submission abilities of Matt Schnell in this fight. The other thing that we want to talk about, the Tapology votes. So out of 512 votes, 68% going with Schnell, 63% by decision. If we look over at the odds, it gets very interesting because Tyson Am a slight favorite here. He opened as a -110, currently sitting a -125. Opposite of Matt Schnell, opened as a -110, currently sitting around par at -100. Bit of a surprise where you have the favorite getting less votes on Tapology. We always like to bring that up. Does it play any of a factor into our prediction? It does not. Now, Matt, who are you finally going with here for a pick?
I'm going with Tyson Nam. I do think those leg kicks are going to be a big issue for Schnell, mainly due to the fact that he's not going to have that explosion to go for any takedowns if he's getting the lesser of the striking exchanges. So as long as Tyson Nam can A, damage that left leg, and B, defend takedowns for the first 6 to 7 minutes of the fight, I'm really oversimplifying it, but for Tyson Nam, what do you have to do? Avoid the ground, attack the lead leg, and try to keep range. If you can do all three of those things, Tyson Nam should be able to pick up the decision.
And I can really see it from both ways. I think we've given a decent account, or hopefully we have, of both guys' strengths, weaknesses, and paths to victory. I do like Matt Schnell in this fight due to that fact. If he can get this to the ground and he snatches a back, it's game over. Matt Schnell, very, very crafty on the ground, and I think he has a really good opportunity. He's pumping his own tires in the interviews out there this week. Matt's flipping coins.
Tyson Nam.
It's Tyson Nam. I've got Matt Schnell. I'm really looking forward to this card. There's a lot of really under-the-radar fights, so hopefully you can check out the playlist, including an extended look at our main event between Michelle Waterson and Angela Hill. So keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, Matt. And as we always say, let's get into it.